Hello, I bet you didn't expect to see me back again so soon. I'm not quite sure what you're seeing there because I'm holding the camera out horizontally in front of me, hoping to get in as much as possible. For today I have attempted the revamp of, let's bring it in front of you here, the Soulmates card, the Lovers, Blessed Union from the Wild Spirit original deck. I'm not quite sure what you're going to make of this one because you might like it as it was. However, it isn't how it was. I shall go through its stages with you. So obviously here I'm showing you the original printed card with the original name, Soulmates, Blessed Union. Okay, so this is how it went through its incarnations. If I can, I'll have to move up here. So this here was the original. Oh, this is so difficult. This is the original. Come up here. There we go. This is the original artwork for that card, which for some reason I have got still. It even has the little symbols that I had intended for the corners of the card. I don't know why I thought that I needed borders around borders and borders, but that's just what I used to do then. Anyway, this is the actual original, and as you can see, it is very, very graphic. It's almost, I was very influenced by graphic novels going back to sort of the late 80s really, and that was my style. Lots of dots shading and heavy black lines, and I carried that on until I was tattooing. Actually, that was just how I did things. Previous to that, I'd worked in sort of lots and lots of dots of colour, building up dots of colour. I wish I had something to show you of that, but the work has been destroyed because it is late 80s. I don't know what happened to it. I've had so many house moves, it's gone away. Anyway, it was kind of like pointillist style, like Surah, kind of lots of dots of colour building up. Then I moved on to this lots of dots of black rotary ink with the colour on top. I do like this card. I thought this was one of the more successful cards. However, I was never entirely happy with her face, and I long since lost the reference art that I was working from. It wasn't, I never exactly copy anything, I make it my own, but I don't know where the original reference material was for this card. It's long gone too, so I was never entirely happy with her face. It looks a bit hard, I think. He's nice, but I wanted to change that. So when I did another version of it, so the version number 2, which I think is the one that actually, this is no, it wasn't that one. That was kind of prototype A. This is B. This is what actually ended up on the card, because I can see that now. And she's softened out a little bit, and it's a lot more kind of, well, it's still very dotty, still lots of dot shading and lines, but very graphic-y, but graphic, I come out with such rubbish words, don't I? You know what I mean. Yes, it's still of that ilk, only it's moved on a little bit more into the style that I ended up with. I still don't really like her face. She looks a bit too harsh for the nice fairy soul that I was trying to depict, whereas he's rather sweet and lovely. And then we went into stage number 3, which is more it's still got the dots, but they've faded out a bit. Let's have a look at them. It's exactly the same design. All 3 of these are exactly the same design. They've just sort of softened out, and her face is softened out a bit, but it still wasn't quite what I wanted it to look like in the revamped version. So yes, there's that. That's how it's progressed. So let's look at how it is now. This is where it gets tricky because we're kind of holding it up in the air. Right, the central one is the original artwork. I will compare. There we go, next to each other. Is this working? I don't know. I'll hold it up a bit further. There we go. So I had to use different reference material for the faces, and I thought while I was doing that I was going to do something a little bit naughty and personal, because this is the lovers card and I felt like trying to add in little bits of me and Gary. Already had a very when I first met Gary, he was he was what my friend Sue called my hunky drummer. He had a very kind of triangular muscular back from drumming and doing stonework in building, and he was very sort of like of this shape. So that kind of made me think, well, as a sort of commemoration of us, perhaps I can just add in a little bit. A very idealised, I have to say, and stress, even when I was in my youth, I did not look like this. But I thought I would add in something of us, and the eyes are of course, the most important part of the face. And, you know, if we want to give the old saying, the windows of the soul. So I added in our eyes as best as I could. The rest of them don't, I mean, that does not look like me, but there's something of the eyes, and same for this face here. I really hope, I mean, there are bound to be people who like the original faces better, and I like the original faces. However, I think this has a softness to it, and also, of course, it means something to me because I've put something of me and him into it, which was important for me to do, because frankly, my friends, I really am struggling very badly and the art is not coming easily to me. It was a real struggle. So making it personal in a way helped. It did help, although I didn't want it to become so much that it just looked like locals, because, you know, we are not those ideal people, and it had to be kind of more soft, fairy looking, which is the whole essence of the card. I mean, this is a revamp, it's not a complete change of tack. What I did want to change though is I have, you know, in terms of design, I don't want to do things like I used to do them. Things were very much more arbitrarily placed, like that butterfly is just not here. I'm pointing with my glabby finger. This butterfly is just kind of flat on right next to her head. It's not in a good position. I like the way the swans were coming out, but they're right on the edge of the design, so that wasn't good. And I wanted native bluebells rather than these, which are more like harebells, or foreign bluebells, but I think they're more like harebells. I liked the dog roses, one of my very favourite flowers, but again, I thought I could position them perhaps a little bit better in terms of design, and I thought it would be nice to have more butterflies that blended in with the colour scheme, because there is a kind of different scheme here. This one is very it's in the yellows and the greens, and there's pinks and sort of lilacs in there. The colours are lovely in that. I do like that. It doesn't take anything away from the original, it's just this one is different. So we've still got the dog roses, but the butterflies are placed, I hope, in a much more subtle position, actually sort of flying out of the image up there, and they're British blue butterflies, and the swans are still coming out, but there is more. See, I'll explain this in a minute. I try really hard to leave the bleed border, so that if this was ever made into a card and the printer has to chop off bleed border, they wouldn't get their beak chopped off. I always do that, so the butterfly doesn't go right up to the edge. Ditto the one down there, so I'm making sure that doesn't happen. And we have native British bluebells here, which was important to me to do. Still got the sort of wild vine creeping from the dog roses around them, entwining the couple, binding them together. That's still a central. That was exactly the same in the other one. I like that very much. I like the way it comes across her head and goes round him and down there. I think that's rather nice. Let's just come back up there so you can look at it properly. Hopefully, as much as possible. ones on either side are the prints, which are extremely disappointing, but we'll come to those in a moment. So yes, what else can I tell you? I have learnt a few things about faces that, well, I kind of knew this anyway, but it was when I was looking at photographs of mine and Gary's faces and trying to get an essence of the eyes, I realised how asymmetrical we were, and how that is considered to be sort of, the more symmetrical you are in life, the more kind of attractive you're meant to be, which is a load of old guff, because the attraction for me is coming from within the eyes and not from where they're positioned. But it did give me a bit of a lesson about the asymmetry of faces, especially our two seem to be particularly asymmetrical, so I had to kind of even that out. And they do not look, you would not say that was us at all, except for there is something about the eyes I can see, definitely, for both of them. Yes, so this was extremely hard for me to do. I really am struggling. My one refuge in life, my artwork, is no longer providing me with that. It's like really, really hard work, whereas I normally vanish into it and the hours just melt away. This is like, come on, you've got to do this. And I did it, but it's I'd like to tell you that it got easier, but it didn't get easier this time. It probably got a bit harder, actually. But never mind, I did it, and here it is. And what do you think of it? Now, the prints, I've got two. This is an actual, you would not believe this. I'll put them side by side. This is what my printer made of it. It's kind of turned it into this fuzzy pink thing. I don't know, it's just, I work so hard. I mean, if I go into this, to the hair on this one, there's so many different colours. You're right in there. My camera is being very kind to me and focusing. There are just like layer upon layer of different coloured pencil and ink, mostly pencil, blended in, and then you come to the print and it's like, oh, well, why did you bother doing all that? Because it's not there now. It sort of softens it out, makes it look kind of more ethereal in a way, but it's lost the colour. It's just turned it into kind of fuzz, really. So I'll just put those two together. The point of the printed version is, of course, that I can put in the titles for you. So because I've wanted the revamp to have the word spirit and wild in the names rather than this one, the original, which was soulmates, blessed union, this one has got twin spirits, wild connection. Now that might not be so good, and I might change that in the end, but I did want continuity throughout this, so that there was always a wild and there was always a spirit in the title, which makes it a bit tricky, because I know that this card is not purely about two people, whoever they are, or two beings of any kind, making a union. It's not all about that. It's about all sorts of things like choices, and it's not just about romance and love and attachment and attraction and partnerships. It's not just that. But this is the way this card looks, and so that's what I've called it, and it's kind of in honour of Gary and me, but that's making it too personal. If this does not work for you, me calling it this, then please tell me. I really appreciate it. Dear Rowan, who is a good friend and always a constructive and very, very helpful commenter on my titles, decided for me that calling the Wild Woman, who would be the Empress card, that was the last revamp I did, she said calling it Nurturing Spirit rather than Loving Spirit was better, and I completely agree. So I do take on your comments, and they are extremely precious to me. So please, dear souls, if you can let me know what you think of this, then please do. I shall just move along here because I did another copy with a hue change. So this one here is more of the yellow toned, but it's still extremely fuzzy and not, look how sharp my original is, and how how all the colours in the roses, and oh, the layer upon layer of colour, and then you get kind of fuzzy wars of this, which is yeah, if I wanted it to look that sort of fey, I would have done that in my original, but it really does kind of bleach it out, and then you get it bleached. I keep saying this every video I make. Yeah, my printer bleaches it out, and then the camera bleaches it out, and then the video you're watching gets it bleached out. So if you can, have a look at the little image that I will put on Twitter. I know Twitter is not ideal, but it literally is all I have. I cannot use Instagram because I do not have one of those phones that allows me to be on Instagram. I have, come hither, wobbly wobbly, hello, I am Poppy's phone. Yes, so that's not really going to allow me to be on Instagram, and I don't really have any other outlets. So if you want to look at the how it would look on Twitter rather than this very faded out version, then please do. I don't think you will have to sign in to Twitter. I think you can look at at least the first about 4 or 5 comments, posts on there, which this will be one of the top ones. It won't make you sign in until you scroll down a bit more, and then it will make you sign in. So you should be able to see it without being a Twitterite. I am not a Twitterite either. I just purely use it for this purpose. Is there anything else I can tell you about this? Because I am really you can probably tell. I mean, you're astute people, you are wonderful people. I thank you with all my heart for the comments you've left me on my other videos. You have been so kind and so lovely and so supportive. I haven't been able to check it for a couple of days, but the ones that I checked a few days ago, you were just lovely to me. Thank you so much. I'm sure you can tell that I am not as I was, and that's not really surprising, is it? Because I've lost my soulmate. And I am very broken. So the fact that I've done this was a Herculean effort. I'm not going to mention Sisyphus again with his rock, but it was a pretty big effort to do this. But I felt like it had a purpose for me, and a purpose hopefully for you to be able to see another revamp, to see how it would be going and how it would be looking, because this is my only real kind of point at the moment, is doing this. And I want to do it. I am working on it as hard as I can, trying to make it look as lovely as I can, and which is very frustrating when you come to print it out and it looks like kind of fluff. But hey, that's how it is until I can get another printer or something, which is not really happening at the moment, but still, at least it's still working. I feel like I should not say anything derogatory about any inanimate object in case it decides to take umbrage with me and stop working altogether, because I'm a bit daft like that, you see. I treat things like they have feelings, and so I don't want to hurt my printer's feelings by saying that it's not quite up to the job, but it isn't. So yeah, hope it's not listening. Now you're probably thinking that I've really lost the plot. I think I should go, actually. I've talked for nearly 20 minutes. I don't know how I've done that, really. So, can you give me some feedback on what you think? Let's have a look. Sorry I'm wobbling. I'm really not. Yes, let's look at this. Let's look at the. So on the right we have the original, and in the centre we have the new version. I mean, there's good about both of them. It's just that I think, personally, I really like her face much more than her face. I think that one looks much more wistful and ethereal. Yes, fey. His face I liked. This face, I think there's a kind of sweetness to this face too. It wasn't just about, I mean, that if I said that's Gary, nobody would believe me, because it doesn't actually look like him, but there is something of the eyes in it, and actually you can see more of that in the print for some reason. The print looks more of him than the actual piece does. So that's the print. So what do you think? Have I improved it? Is it just different? perhaps you could tell me which card you'd like to see next. I don't know whether I'd actually be doing, I don't know whether I can even speak, to be honest, let alone do another revamp, but if you want to let me know which card you'd like to see next, I would be happy to hear, although I can't guarantee anything at all at this present time, because these are, well, it's beyond interesting times. It's just like, it was the worst of times, it was the worst of times. I haven't actually spoken to anybody since, I don't know, well, I still haven't had any dealings with anybody since the funeral on the 29th, and that was very minimal, so coming up for a month of yeah, the whole thing, and then he's been gone since the 6th of March, so it's a long time to deal with this on your own. I am proud of myself for not losing the plot completely and just gibbering at you, but I am quite aware that I am not on my best form, shall we say. So if I leave these, no, that's not going to work, is it? Unless I put them up here. Let's just look at the revamps. There we go. Coming up, there we go, as high as I can. You're still not getting the whole thing in. Whoops, there you go. What a very inadequate way of doing things this is. I would have liked to have been able to serve my work a bit better than this, but never mind. I'll just give you a close-up view before we depart, so you can see all the detail that I did put in before my printer took it back out again. Sorry, be kind to printer. Okay, it would be lovely to hear from you. Can't tell you what it means to me when people leave comments. I just think, you know, you're all so busy, you've all got all this stuff going on in your lives, and you spend time watching my videos, which are overly long, and then you comment. You know, it's a marvel. It's a wonder to me that you do this. I am deeply grateful. Okay, just please, if you hear me say anything, just hear me say that. I am so grateful for your support, and I hope that this has been a worthwhile revamp. I'll probably remember what I was going to say, but I'm going to switch off now because I think you've had enough, okay? Lots of love, as always, for all our relations. Stay free, and thank you. With all my heart.